Video games have been a staple of entertainment since Computer Space in 1971 and Pong in 1972. Since then, there have been massive advancements in technology, from graphics, to gameplay, to even connectivity, revolutionizing the video game industry into the juggernaut of enjoyment we have today. With games like the large monster fighting multiplayer of Monster Hunter World, to the beautiful storytelling single player of Clair Obscura Expedition 33, all running on different consoles like the PS5, Series X, and even PC. There is something for everyone. But what about the games that we had before? What about the niche game that, while not doing well commercially at launch, eventually gained a cult following later on because of how it was a staple of its time? The multitude of movie tie-in games that were supposed to reflect how the movie was in an interactive space? The games that were still good but because of legal or licensing issues were taken down? And all the controller and console exclusives that were a product of innovative and wild ideas that were just plain fun. With the current wave of generational games and consoles of every era, the old are replaced with the new. The Xbox becomes the 360, to the One, then the Series X. PlayStation goes from 1 to 5. And Nintendo goes from the GameCube to the Wii to the Switch, and now Switch 2. If you can buy it. Once the last generation are changed, where do they go? What do we do with them? And how would someone be able to go back and relive the nostalgia all over again? Games that had a very specialized aesthetic, such as movie tie-in games. Games that didn't do so well at launch, but had a following later on. And games that were never transferred to new consoles or storefronts due to issues. Were all just left to disappear into the void. When that happens, people try to preserve the memories any way they can. From scouting the physical copies, to pirating games, especially since big corporations hate it when the games they're finished with are being circulated without paying them, even if they stop using it. In 2024, the US Copyright Office denied the use of video games for study and preservation. In an article from The Verge by Sean Hollister, to quote, "The US Copyright Office confirms that the current level of video game preservation is appropriate and recognizes that the video games present a unique copyright concern that should always be taken into consideration. When games are being taken down from digital storefronts and stores no longer carry physical copies, there is a place we can turn to as a way to preserve our older titles. Retro games and collectible stores. These stores are a plethora of classic titles, consoles, and controllers that can allow people to revisit their childhood, try out games that they couldn't play before, or even show their children what they played when they were younger. One such store is Corpus Christi's Tronics Game and Repair. I spoke with Nathan Boxwell, the events coordinator, about how the store started.
So Tronics Repairing Games was created about 12 years ago. It originally started out as Cell Phone Island, which is a cell phone repair center. And then he wanted to create a store that encompassed everything from his childhood. So we got Tronics Repairing Games, which has retro video games and Pokemon cards.
Retro stores are especially good when it comes to consoles and controllers, since they would carry the classics, and some would even be able to repair or customize them, such as Tronics.
Working with old consoles can be pretty treacherous, especially finding parts that we need as those consoles are no longer in production. So finding something that is very niche and hard to find can be pretty tough to keep these consoles going. But whenever you get an influx of consoles, you can use them for parts and just take parts off one console to make another one work. And then there's great companies out there like Handheld Legend that make modern parts for retro consoles such as screens, buttons, shells, and it's great to just see the retro game console scene alive.
And with video games for the current generation being almost all and only digital, with stores slowly phasing out physical copies, retro stores still carry discs for older games that you cannot find anymore.
Collecting physical media such as video games is very important as we get to keep it for as long as we have it compared to digital storefronts that could shut down. The developers could take the rights from those video games and you no longer have access to something you paid for. So collecting physical media, you get to keep it as long as you have it, and especially with stuff getting lost in translation as well. Video games get lost over time from different regions. So collecting your copy, you get to solidify what you have as a piece of video game history.
Like War of the Monsters, Spider-Man 2005 starring Tobey Maguire, and even Mortal Kombat Deception and Armageddon. Although it's not all bad, since companies have been starting to remaster and remake old games and even bring them onto storefronts like Steam with the new consoles, albeit with some changes to the games for modern audiences.
So with remasters and remakes, I'm a fan of them, as long as they are done faithfully. I feel like whenever you get a modern take on an old game, you just got to make sure you have that development team's original message that they were trying to show and showcase, such as the Silent Hill 2 remake, which was a fantastic remake. You got odes to the original with puzzles and areas, as well as just enhanced graphics and better gameplay. And with remasters and remakes, you get a new audience to experience an older game that maybe they didn't get to experience back in the day. So we're getting to spread a new love for an older game.
Retro stores not only help the older generations reconnect with their past, but also help show the future generations how they grew up, and the games that shaped them. They help build communities and allow people to reconnect with each other, and helping people learn or relearn how to get into new enjoyments.
If you want to get into retro games, go and stop by our store. We love to chat about video games. We can point you in the right direction to some underrated gems, and yeah, let's keep the scene alive.
These stores, along with storefronts like GOG, and game companies like Running with Scissors, who stated, "Personally, I don't have much experience with these stores. I do think they're important, and I'd like to see more of them." Retro stores allow communities in cities big or small to reconnect with the past and preserve it for the future, letting them game on, fix on, and play on.